Some wounds don't bleed, but they change the way you breathe. If you're listening to this, it's because someone hurt you. Not a stranger, someone close enough to matter. Someone whose words stayed longer than the moment, and maybe you've asked yourself, why did this affect me so deeply? Here's the truth. Pain doesn't mean you're weak, it means you cared. And today I want to show you how to rise without becoming bitter, how to heal without shrinking, how to handle hurt without losing your soul. Pain has a way of arriving quietly. It doesn't knock. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It shows up in the middle of your strongest moments and reminds you that you are human. And when it does, most of us are taught to do the same thing. Swallow it, smile through it, move on quickly, pretend it didn't touch us. We call that strength. But that is not strength. That is survival. And survival is very different from healing. When someone hurts you, especially someone you trusted, your body knows before your mind does. Your chest feels heavier. Your breath becomes shallow. Your thoughts replay moments you wish you could erase. That reaction is not weakness. That reaction is honesty. Pain is information. It is your soul saying something mattered here. Ignoring it doesn't make you brave. It makes you carry a weight you were never meant to hold alone. So many people confuse emotional control with emotional denial. They think that if they don't cry, don't talk about it, don't admit it hurt, then they are winning. But buried pain doesn't disappear. It waits. It settles into your nervous system. It leaks into your relationships. It shows up as anger, exhaustion, detachment, or numbness. You think you moved on, but really, you just learned how to function while bleeding internally. Honoring pain does not mean you let it consume you. It means you acknowledge it without judgment. It means you stop asking yourself why you feel this way and start telling yourself it makes sense that you do. You were disappointed, you were disrespected, you were dismissed. Anyone with a heart would feel that. Giving yourself permission to feel is the first act of self-respect after being hurt. There is a quiet courage in sitting with discomfort instead of running from it. In letting yourself cry without apologizing. In admitting, even if only to yourself, that hurt me. Because the moment you name your pain, you take away its power to control you. Unspoken pain grows louder. Spoken pain begins to heal. Pain is not asking you to relive the story forever. It's asking you to listen once, deeply, honestly, so you can release it properly. Think of it like a wound. You don't heal a wound by covering it with a smile. You clean it. You tend to it. You allow air and time to do their work. Emotional pain requires the same care. Ignoring it only invites infection. And here's the truth we don't say enough. Feeling deeply is not a liability in this world. It is a sign that your heart is alive, that you still believe in connection, that you still show up with sincerity. The goal is not to stop feeling. The goal is to feel without letting pain turn you into someone you're not. When you honor your pain, you learn something powerful about yourself. You learn where your boundaries were crossed. You learn what you value. You learn what you will no longer tolerate. Pain clarifies. It sharpens discernment. It teaches you what deserves protection next time. There is also faith in honoring pain. Faith that you don't need to rush healing to prove strength. Faith that God can handle your tears as much as your gratitude. Faith that sitting with discomfort now will spare you from carrying it into seasons where it doesn't belong. Healing is not delayed obedience. It's sacred timing. You don't need to perform resilience for anyone. You don't need to justify why something hurt you this much. Pain is personal, and healing is not a competition. The bravest thing you can do is slow down long enough to feel what you've been trying to outrun. Because when you honor your pain instead of denying it, something shifts. You stop fighting yourself. You stop turning hurt inward. You stop blaming your sensitivity instead of the situation. And slowly, gently, your heart learns that it is safe to soften again. Pain acknowledged becomes wisdom. Pain respected becomes strength. And pain healed becomes freedom. There comes a moment after being hurt when you feel an almost irresistible urge to explain yourself, to replay the conversation in your head and imagine better words, to draft messages you'll never send, to hope that if you just say it the right way, they'll finally understand what they did. But here is a hard, quiet truth you must hear with compassion, not judgment. Some people don't misunderstand you. They understand you perfectly and still choose themselves. Explaining yourself feels noble. It feels mature. It feels like closure. But often it is just another way of asking someone to validate your pain when they already decided not to protect your heart. And every time you over-explain to someone who hurt you, you reopen the wound and hand them another chance to dismiss it. There's a difference between clarity and pleading. Clarity is calm. It is grounded. It does not beg to be believed. Pleading is desperate. It comes from a place of self-doubt, where you start wondering if maybe you're asking for too much, feeling too much, expecting too much. And the moment you cross that line, you shrink yourself to fit into someone else's limited capacity. You don't owe an explanation to someone who chose to be careless with your trust. You don't need to justify your feelings to someone who benefited from ignoring them. When someone hurts you and then requires you to educate them on why it hurt, that is not misunderstanding. That is emotional laziness. And it is not your responsibility to fix it. There is a quiet dignity in knowing when to stop talking, in choosing silence not because you have nothing to say, but because you finally understand that your words deserve a safer place to land. Silence in this context is not avoidance, it discernment. It is recognizing that not every conversation deserves your energy, your vulnerability, your truth. Over-explaining often comes from the hope that being understood will bring peace. But peace does not come from convincing the wrong person. It comes from standing firm in what you know to be true, even if no one claps for it. Especially then, your truth does not become less valid because someone refuses to acknowledge it. When you stop explaining yourself, something powerful happens. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop rehearsing pain for people who already heard you the first time and chose not to care. You stop putting your healing in someone else's hands, and you begin to reclaim your voice, not by speaking louder, but by choosing when not to speak at all. This doesn't mean you harden. It doesn't mean you shut down emotionally. It means you become selective. You learn that your vulnerability is sacred, not public property. That not everyone who asks for access deserves it. That your peace matters more than being perceived as nice or understanding. There is also freedom in accepting that closure is not always a conversation. Sometimes closure is clarity you give yourself. Sometimes it is walking away without the apology you deserved. Sometimes it is realizing that the answer you were waiting for is already in their behavior. And no explanation will change that. Faith plays a role here too. Faith teaches us that we don't need to defend ourselves at every accusation or misunderstanding. That what is meant for us will recognize us without force. That God sees the full picture even when others only see what benefits them. Trusting that allows you to release the need to explain yourself into exhaustion You were not put on this earth to convince people to treat you well. You were put here to live truthfully, love deeply, and protect your spirit when necessary. And sometimes protecting your spirit looks like stepping back, closing your mouth, and letting your absence say what your words never could. When you stop explaining yourself to people who hurt you, you make space for people who listen without being convinced. People who don't need a breakdown of your pain to respect it. People who choose you without needing to be persuaded. And in that space, healing accelerates. Because your energy is no longer leaking into conversations that go nowhere. Your heart is no longer performing for understanding. Your silence becomes strength. Your restraint becomes power. Not everyone deserves your story. Not everyone earns your explanation. And the day you truly understand that is the day you begin to feel lighter than you have in a long time. There is a moment after betrayal when anger feels like strength. When the idea of getting even feels like justice. When you imagine them feeling the same pain they caused you, and for a second that thought feels powerful. It feels fair. But that power is loud, short-lived, and expensive. It costs you peace, it costs you clarity. And eventually, it costs you yourself. Revenge keeps you emotionally tied to the very person you are trying to escape. It keeps your energy circling their actions, their words, their choices. You think you're taking control, but really, you're still reacting, still orbiting their behavior, still letting them set the emotional temperature of your life. And freedom does not live there. Boundaries are different. Boundaries are quiet. They don't announce themselves, they don't explain, they don't threaten. They simply exist. And once they do, they change everything. A boundary says, this is where I end, this is where my peace begins. It is not about punishment, it is about protection. When someone hurts you, your nervous system doesn't ask for revenge. It asks for safety. It asks for space. It asks for predictability. Boundaries answer those needs. They give your mind room to breathe again. They give your heart a chance to recalibrate. They give you control without cruelty. A lot of people avoid boundaries because they fear being misunderstood, disliked, or labeled as difficult. But ask yourself this: how much misunderstanding did you already endure by staying silent? How much discomfort did you already carry by being available to people who did not handle you with care? Boundaries don't create distance where love exists. They reveal where love was conditional. Setting boundaries after being hurt is not an act of coldness. It is an act of wisdom earned through pain. You tried empathy, you tried patience, you tried giving the benefit of the doubt, and you were still wounded. Boundaries are what you build when you finally listen to the lesson instead of repeating it. Revenge seeks to balance the scales by causing harm. Boundaries restore balance by removing access. One keeps the wound open. The other allows it to close. One feeds the ego. The other feeds the soul. And here is something no one tells you. You don't need the other person's understanding or agreement to set a boundary. Boundaries are not negotiations, they are decisions. You don't need to explain why you need space. You don't need to justify why certain behavior is no longer acceptable. You don't need to wait for them to get it. You just need to honor what your spirit is asking for. There is strength in saying, I'm done engaging with this pattern. There is courage in choosing peace even when your pride wants payback. There is maturity in walking away from situations that require you to abandon yourself to stay. Boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first because they require you to tolerate someone else's disappointment. But ask yourself, why was your discomfort so easy to tolerate before? Why was your pain always negotiable? but their inconvenience feels unbearable. Boundaries rebalance that equation. They teach people how to treat you by teaching you how to treat yourself. Sometimes a boundary looks like less access. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like I changed my expectations. Sometimes it looks like walking away without drama. And sometimes it looks like loving someone from a distance where they can no longer hurt you. This is not about shutting down your heart. It's about guarding it wisely. You can still be kind. You can still be compassionate. You can still wish them well. But kindness without boundaries is self-betrayal. Compassion without discernment is exhaustion. Faith reminds us that peace is not passive. Peace is protected. Even in scripture, rest follows order. Safety follows wisdom. You are not called to endure harm in the name of love. You are called to steward your life with care. When you choose boundaries over revenge, you choose long-term peace over short-term satisfaction. You choose growth over drama. You choose clarity over chaos. And slowly, something powerful happens. You stop feeling the need to prove anything, because your life becomes the proof. You sleep better, you think clearer, you respond instead of react, and one day you realize that the strongest thing you ever did was not hurting them back. It was choosing yourself forward. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood ideas we talk about. People think forgiveness means pretending nothing happened. They think it means welcoming someone back into your life exactly the same way. They think it means minimizing the damage so everyone can feel comfortable again. But real forgiveness is not denial. It is discernment. And it begins when you finally understand that holding on to anger does not punish the person who hurt you. It punishes you. When someone hurts you deeply, resentment can feel like armor. It feels like proof that what happened mattered. It feels like control. But over time, resentment becomes a weight you carry everywhere. Into your sleep, into your relationships, into your joy. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're actually reliving the injury over and over again. Forgiveness is not about erasing the past. It is about releasing yourself from being emotionally chained to it. Forgiving does not mean the wound wasn't serious. It means you refuse to let the wound define the rest of your life. It means you choose your peace over your pride. And that choice is not weakness, it is mastery. Because forgiving someone who never apologized requires more strength than holding on to anger ever will. But forgiveness without wisdom becomes self-betrayal. And this is where many people get confused. You can forgive someone and still acknowledge that they are not safe for you. You can release bitterness and still remember the lesson. Forgetting the lesson is how patterns repeat. Remembering it is how you evolve. Pain teaches you boundaries. It teaches you discernment. It teaches you what behavior costs you your peace. When you forget that lesson in the name of being kind, you don't become loving, you become vulnerable to the same wound again. Forgiveness heals the heart. Wisdom protects it. You are allowed to forgive someone and still say, I won't put myself in that position again. You are allowed to forgive and still change how much access they have to you. Forgiveness does not require reunion, it requires release. And release does not mean re-entry. Some people are meant to be lessons, not lifelong companions. And that doesn't make you bitter. It makes you honest. You don't dishonor forgiveness by remembering who hurt you. You honor it by becoming someone who no longer tolerates the behavior that hurt you. There is also a deep spiritual truth here. Forgiveness is not something you do for others first. It is something you do so your soul can breathe again. It clears space inside you for joy, clarity and faith. It allows you to move forward without dragging emotional debt behind you. And faith teaches us that bitterness blocks blessings, not because God withholds, but because a clenched heart cannot receive. Forgiving doesn't happen all at once. It is a process. Some days you feel free. Other days the memory comes back, sharp and unexpected. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. Forgiveness is often a decision you make repeatedly until your emotions finally catch up with your intention. Be patient with yourself in that process. And here is something important. Forgiving does not require reconciliation, explanation, or acknowledgement. Sometimes the person who hurt you will never understand the impact of their actions. Sometimes they will never take responsibility. Waiting for that moment can keep you stuck. Forgiveness allows you to move on without their participation. Remembering the lesson is how you reclaim your power. You stop trusting words without consistency. You stop overgiving where there is no reciprocity. You stop confusing potential with reality. Pain sharpens your intuition if you let it. It teaches you to listen the first time your spirit feels uneasy instead of waiting for proof through heartbreak. When you forgive and remember the lesson, you don't become closed off. You become calibrated. You don't build walls. You build filters. You don't lose your softness. You pair it with strength. And one day, you realize something quietly beautiful. The person who hurt you no longer controls your emotions. Their name doesn't trigger the same reaction. Their memory doesn't shake your peace. Not because you forgot, but because you healed. Forgiveness freed you. Wisdom protects you. And together they made you someone who can love again, without losing yourself this time. When someone hurts you, the most dangerous place the damage can land is not in your life, it's in your identity. Quietly, subtly, pain starts asking questions inside you. Was I not enough? Was I too much? Did I deserve this? And if you're not careful, you begin to absorb someone else's behavior as a definition of who you are. That is where the real harm begins. Human beings look for meaning. So when something breaks, we search for a reason. And too often we turn inward and assume the flaw must be us. But hear this clearly. The way someone treats you is a reflection of their capacity, not your value. Their inability to show up does not cancel your worth. Their betrayal does not rewrite your character. You can be kind and still be mistreated. You can be loyal and still be betrayed. You can be generous and still be taken for granted. None of those experiences mean there is something wrong with you. They mean you encountered someone who did not know how to honor what you offered. Pain becomes poisonous when it convinces you to shrink, when it tells you to dim your voice, dull your expectations, or harden your heart so you don't get hurt again. You start editing yourself to avoid discomfort. You become quieter, smaller, more cautious, and you call it growth. But that is not growth. That is fear wearing the mask of wisdom. Your softness is not the problem. Your trust was not foolish. Your love was not misplaced. What needs refinement is not your heart, it's your discernment. You don't need to become colder to survive. You need to become clearer. When someone hurts you, resist the urge to personalize their behavior. Ask better questions. Not what's wrong with me, but what was missing in them. Not why wasn't I enough, but why did they lack the integrity to treat me better? These questions don't come from ego, they come from truth. It is also important to understand that people often hurt others from places of insecurity, fear, or unhealed trauma. That does not excuse their behavior, but it explains why internalizing it is unfair to you. You cannot measure your worth against someone else's brokenness. One of the most powerful acts of healing is separating your identity from your experiences. What happened to you is not who you are. What someone did to you is not a label you carry forward. Pain is an event, not a verdict. There is courage in continuing to believe in your values, even after someone tried to exploit them, in remaining kind without becoming naive, in staying open without becoming unprotected. That balance is maturity, and it takes time to build. Faith plays a crucial role here. Faith reminds you that your worth was assigned before anyone ever had the chance to diminish it, that you were created whole, not waiting to be validated by human behavior, that no rejection has the authority to revoke what was divinely given. When you anchor your identity in something higher than people's opinions, you stop being shaken by their actions, you stop chasing approval, you stop needing everyone to see your value. You walk differently, you speak differently, you choose differently. Do not let one person's inability to love you properly teach you to love yourself less. Do not let one betrayal convince you that trust is foolish. Do not let one disappointment turn into a permanent belief about who you are. You are not broken, you are not too much, you are not forgettable. You are discerning, you are learning, you are becoming. And when you stop allowing other people's actions to rewrite your identity, something powerful happens. You return to yourself. You are. You claim your voice. You stand in your truth without apology, because the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. And protecting that relationship is not selfish. It is sacred. You were never defined by the hurt. You were always defined by the strength it revealed. Pain has a way of demanding meaning. It refuses to be dismissed as random. When something hurts deeply, your soul instinctively asks, "What was this for?" And if you don't answer that question with intention, pain will answer it for you, usually by turning into bitterness, fear, or self-doubt. But when you choose to respond consciously, pain becomes something else entirely. It becomes purpose. Nothing that wounds you this deeply comes without instruction. Pain is not polite, but it is precise. It points directly to what needs to change, what needs to strengthen, what needs to be released, and what needs to rise. The mistake we often make is trying to escape pain instead of extracting wisdom from it. And when you skip the lesson, life has a way of repeating the exam. Turning pain into purpose does not mean glorifying suffering. It means refusing to let suffering be wasted. It means saying, if this hurt me, it will not leave me empty. It means allowing the experience to refine you rather than reduce you. Think about how pain sharpens clarity. Before you were hurt, you may have ignored red flags. You may have compromised your boundaries. You may have overgiven, over-explained, overstayed. Pain comes in and says, look closer. It wakes you up to patterns you were tolerating unconsciously. That awareness is not a curse, it's an upgrade. Purpose is born when pain teaches you discernment, when you realize what you will no longer accept, when you understand your worth without needing to argue for it, when you stop pouring into places that drain you. Pain matures you fast, than comfort ever could. And sometimes, purpose shows up as compassion. The kind that doesn't judge quickly because you know how invisible wounds feel. The kind that listens without interrupting because you remember how lonely pain can be. The kind that holds space instead of offering cliches. Your pain equips you to serve others from a place of authenticity, not theory. But this transformation requires courage, because pain also tempts you to close your heart completely, to say, never again, to retreat into emotional isolation. Turning pain into purpose means you choose to remain open, but wiser. It means you refuse to let hurt make you harsh. You let it make you intentional. There is also discipline involved. Purpose does not magically appear once you are hurt. You have to choose it. You have to ask yourself hard questions. What did this reveal about me, about my patterns, about my standards? Growth demands honesty, and honesty sometimes hurts more than the original wound. Purpose is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like quiet changes, stronger boundaries, healthier choices, slower trust, clearer priorities. You stop chasing what once excited you because you now crave what aligns with your peace. That shift is purpose working internally. Faith deepens this transformation. Faith reminds you that nothing is wasted, not even heartbreak, that what was meant to break you was allowed to build you, that God can use even the most painful chapters to redirect your life towards something more aligned, more stable, more real. Purpose is often hidden inside what you thought was a setback. And here is something important. Your pain does not have to become public to become purposeful. You don't need to tell the story to everyone. You don't need to turn it into a performance. Purpose begins privately, in how you show up differently afterward, in how you love with discernment, in how you choose peace without apology. Eventually you reach a moment where you realize the pain changed you, but it did not ruin you. It clarified you. It strengthened your intuition. It anchored you in truth, and you begin to trust yourself more than you ever did before. That trust is priceless. One day, you will look back and see that the thing you thought delayed you actually aligned you, that the loss created space, that the disappointment redirected your energy, that the hurt refined your vision. And you will no longer ask, why did this happen to me? You will say, this happened for me. Pain becomes purpose when you stop asking it to leave and start asking it to teach. And once it has taught you, you don't carry it forward. You carry the wisdom. That is how pain stops being a wound and starts becoming a turning point. There comes a point in healing where you realize that holding on is actually harder than letting go. You replay conversations, you revisit memories, you wait for apologies that may never come, and without realizing it, you stay emotionally attached to something that has already ended, not because you still want it, but because releasing it feels like losing control. This is where trust becomes the final lesson. Letting go is not forgetting, it is not pretending the hurt never happened. Letting go is choosing not to live there anymore. It is deciding that your future deserves more attention than your past. And that decision takes faith, not the kind that waits for guarantees, but the kind that moves even when the path ahead is unclear. Many people think faith means everything will turn out exactly how they hope. But real faith is deeper than that. Faith is believing that even if things don't turn out the way you imagined, they will still turn out in a way that grows you, protects you, and aligns you. Faith is trusting that removal can be protection, that loss can be mercy, that distance can be divine. Sometimes the relationship didn't end because you failed. Sometimes it ended because it had fulfilled its purpose. Some connections come into your life to teach you love. Others come to teach you boundaries. Others come to teach you self-worth. Not everyone is meant to stay, and staying too long in something that is draining you is not loyalty. It is self-abandonment. Trusting God in moments of hurt does not mean suppressing grief. It means surrendering control. It means saying, I don't understand why this happened, but I trust that I am not being punished. I am being prepared. That shift in perspective changes everything. It turns pain into positioning. There is a reason some doors close without explanation. If every ending came with clarity, you would never learn how to walk by faith. You would never strengthen your intuition. You would never develop resilience. Sometimes clarity comes after obedience, not before. After you let go. After you step forward. After you stop begging life to return what it already removed. Trust also requires humility. It requires admitting that you don't see the full picture, that what you wanted may not be what you needed, that what felt like rejection may actually be redirection, and that what you lost may have been blocking what was meant to arrive next. Holding on to pain often feels safer than trusting the unknown. Pain is familiar, the unknown is not. But familiar pain will keep you small, while unfamiliar growth will stretch you into who you are becoming. Trust is choosing growth even when comfort begs you to stay the same. And here is something powerful. When you truly let go, you stop asking life to explain itself to you. You stop demanding answers. You stop chasing closure. You accept that some things ended because they had to. And in that acceptance, peace begins to settle. Trusting God does not mean passivity. It does not mean you stop trying or stop caring. It means you stop forcing. You stop trying to revive what no longer has life. You stop negotiating with situations that already reveal their truth. You move forward with wisdom, not desperation. There is also strength in believing that what is meant for you will not require you to betray yourself to keep it. What is meant for you will meet you in peace, not confusion. In consistency, not anxiety. In clarity, not chaos. Trust helps you wait for that instead of settling for less. One day you will realize that the moment you let go was the mom. And your life began to realign, your energy returned, your clarity sharpened, your heart felt lighter, not because everything was perfect, but because you were no longer fighting what was already gone. Faith does not promise an easy road, it promises a guided one. And when you trust that guidance, even through loss, you stop fearing endings. You understand that endings are not always punishments. Sometimes they are protection you cannot yet see. So let go, not with bitterness, but with belief, not with anger, but with trust, not with fear, but with faith. Because when you release what was weighing you down, you make room for what is meant to lift you up. And after all the lessons, after the boundaries, the forgiveness, the clarity, the release, there is one final truth that rises above everything else. A truth that doesn't shout, but settles into you quietly and stays. You were never meant to be broken by what hurt you. You were meant to become deeper because of it. Life will wound you sometimes, not to harden you, but to wake you up. Not to make you cynical, but to make you conscious. Every hurt you survived refined your awareness. Every disappointment sharpened your discernment. Every loss stripped away what was false so what was real could finally stand. Look at yourself now. You see more clearly. You feel more honestly. You choose more wisely. That didn't come from comfort. That came from courage. You didn't just endure pain. You listened to it. You let it teach you. You let it shape you without defining you. And that is rare. That is strength. Most people never develop. The world will try to rush you past your healing. It will tell you to move on, be over it, stay positive. But healing is not a performance. It is a process. And every step you took inward, every moment you chose self-respect over approval, peace over pride, faith over fear, it mattered. You are not behind, you are not damaged, you are not difficult to love. You are becoming someone who knows their worth without announcing it. Someone who doesn't chase what runs. Someone who doesn't beg for what should be freely given. Someone who can love deeply without losing themselves. And that kind of person changes the room just by walking into it. So, if you're still healing, be patient with yourself. If you're still letting go, be gentle. If you're still rebuilding trust, honor the pace. Growth is not loud, it is steady, and it is sacred. Remember this when doubt tries to revisit you. What hurt you did not break you. What left you did not take your value. What ended made space for something more aligned. Don't close your heart, just guard it with wisdom. Don't stop believing, just believe with discernment. And don't let pain make you forget who you are. You are resilient, you are guided, you are becoming. And the most beautiful chapters of your life will not come from what you lost. They will come from who you chose to become after. Walk forward with faith. Stand tall in your truth. And trust this deeply. Nothing that healed you was wasted. Nothing that refined you was random. And nothing meant for you will ever miss you. Keep going. Your peace is worth it. Release what wounded you. Not because it didn't matter, but because you do. Stand in your truth without bitterness. Walk forward without fear. What tried to break you was allowed to build you. What was left was making room. What hurt you refined your spirit, not your destiny. Trust that God never removes without replacing, never closes without protecting, and never delays without preparing. So rise with faith in your steps, wisdom in your heart, and peace in your spirit. The past has taught you enough. Now it's time to live what you've learned.